6:01. I'd like to call to order the Grayson County Board of Supervisors. Virginia, sanitation, please. All of our pleasure.
Oh, thank you.
I can't hear you guys.
Allowed us to come together as for our county. We pray that you'll be in this meeting tonight. Got our supervisor's thoughts. Thank you for what they do for the county. And just help us in this meeting tonight. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Welcome, everyone. Can you hear me, Bill?
Just a little bit. It's a little bit muffled, but I will be listening closely.
Well, I took my mask off for you.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. Now it's much better. Yeah.
Okay. All right, if everyone's looked over the agenda and the consent agenda, I look for a motion to approve. Second. On favor, aye.
Aye.
Okay. Get right down to the reports. Kristen Shoemake, Director of Grayson County Department of Social Services, and Gina Bishop, CSA Coordinator. Welcome.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for the opportunity to be here this evening. Wanted to take just a few moments of your time to introduce you to Grayson County's new full-time CSA coordinator. I am the director, of course, most of you know me at Grayson County BOS, and we are charged with multiple tasks in this community in terms of serving the underprivileged, the abused, and neglected, and trying to turn that cycle of poverty around. I am also the physical management overseer for our CSA program. Mr. Hash is our chairperson on our CPMT team. And one of the things we wanted to bring to your attention, and Mr. Gravels, I wanted to point out to you, sir, you mentioned last year in one of our budgetary meetings last year about not having control over our CSA dollars here within this community. So, and we're getting ready to go into a new budget year and wanted to bring some things to your attention, if you will, please. When I came on as director of Grayson County BOS just a little over 2 years ago, you'll see some of the budgetary numbers up here. If you will go to, Carl, the slide previous, I believe, with the different years, there we go. And I assume all of you had an opportunity to look over these slides, so that if you have questions, we'd like to be able to take this opportunity to talk with you individually about that. There was concern about the CSA dollars being spent here in this community that were continuing to rise and out of control. So there was a three-pronged approach that we developed at BOS along with our board BOS board. And one of the things, our first thing we did was to look at prevention alternatives in the community and diversions to keep children from coming into foster care. That is something that we did with our judge here in Grayson County. We've been able to do many diversions of keeping children from coming into foster care, which is extremely expensive. The second thing we were to be able to do was last year in September, we were able to hire a full-time CSA coordinator, Mrs. Bishop, who's going to speak with you here in just a few moments. What she does as a full-time CSA coordinator is not only to manage our local CSA dollars, but also the other part of that being a full-time position is doing utilization management, making sure that those dollars are spent well and soundly, if you will, and having follow-up to those dollars that are spent within the community. And so that's what we have been doing for the past year. The third prong and the last approach that we were able to look at doing is we hired a resource home recruiter that is a joint position by Galax and Grayson County. We both split the cost of that position, and all this person does is recruit local foster homes and train them. There's a lot of training that goes into becoming a local foster home. The reason why we would want to have local foster homes, multiple different reasons. First and foremost, the children stay here locally within our community. That's what's best for children. Not only that, if we can keep them in local homes, then they stay on our rolls in the school system, but you get federal dollars for those. It reduces trauma to children when they're here in their local community and still have ties where they can see family and friends and stay in our school system. plus local foster homes. If you're paying someone to keep those children in foster care, that money is spent here locally at our grocery stores and things of that nature in our own community and restaurants and gas stations rather than going out to other communities. So we were able to do that this past summer, July the 1st, and that is working out well. And I wanted to report to you where we stand for Grayson County before I turn that over to Ms. Bishop for CSN. We currently in Grayson County have 27 children in foster care. When I arrived, we had 36. At one time last year in December, we were down as low as 13 children in foster care. Of the 27 that we currently have in care, we have 10 pending adoptions. Those adoptions would have already have occurred had it not been for COVID and the backup in our court system. So they should be adopted prior to February of this year. At that point in time, we will be down even more. We're down to about 17 children in foster care. Of those 17 children, 9 of them are in therapeutic foster homes. And as you can see, the therapeutic foster care on that slide shows that that is what is so costly to be able to keep children in therapeutic homes rather than local foster homes. 11 of our children will be in local homes. So there's a cost savings to be able to keep our children here locally. Okay? So I want to introduce you to Tina Bishop, your full-time CSA coordinator. And if you have any questions about our CSA dollars and where we're going, she'll be happy to answer those for you.
Well, I can't talk with this on, I think breathe. But I have 34 years in with BSS and I have 18 with CSA. So this is not my first rodeo. I've seen it, and I was in this county, and when Kristen came over here, and the opportunity came for me to come to Grayson, I was a little hesitant at first because I mean I've been there, I was comfortable, but I like Grayson County, I always have, and I thought I was going to retire, or I was going to come here, and so I gave it a shot. The first thing I did when I came over was to look where the money was going. You know, because what they do is when you see these big figures, you think, well, where did it go? You know, where's it going? What can we do? And some things we don't have any say so over. IEP-driven placement and foster care being their biggest expenditures. When I first came, I did a breakdown. I mean, I got down to nitty-gritty exactly where every cent was going. So I met with Ms. Shoemate and I said, we're spending money on administrative costs for therapeutic foster homes. And what a therapeutic foster home is for a child that has more needs than could be met through regular foster homes. But unfortunately, in Grayson County, we don't have enough regular foster homes. People that in the community that take kids in. Kids are always served better being in the home community. And so the price of those have went up so much for the years. They even broke down what the price has been like the last 20 years. It used to be like $25 a day to keep the kid in therapy foster home to the agents. $150 a day now, and that's because they can charge whatever they want. And the only thing they do different from a regular foster home, we pay maintenance and enhancement. Therapeutic foster homes, we pay administrative costs and maintenance and enhancement. So the homes are getting the same amount. Those agents are getting money, and for that, they are required by Medicaid and by the state to never face-to-face contact with those children twice a month. That's all they do. And so when I talked to Kristen about that, I said, so that's one of the big things we're going to have to focus on. We don't need to use that. That's not a good steward of taxpayer money and of Grayson County. I understand the restrictions of Grayson County money and budget wise. And so that's where the resource home came in. And I am so happy with the person they hired. She does a fabulous job. And adoptions, they roll out the adoptions here. Kids get caught up in the court system. And them going to adoption, it's just they get hung up and Kristen rolls them through, and then they're in their home, and that's 100% federal money, no local money. So we looked at that, and so I wanted y'all to have an opportunity to see. I always every year I didn't miss the board to show you what we look like compared to the surrounding counties. And so I started off in 2017, just a baseline, what Grayson, Carroll, Jackson would spend. That would be the bottom figures for each county. And then I looked at what they spent the next year. And how much, if they went up. They went up, it's in red, and went down, it's in red. And you can see for Grayson, the expenditures from 2017 was $581,000. And it went next year to $949,000. So you can see it on the stuff. And, you know, and Galax, God love them people. I don't know what's going on there, but, they went from 295,000, and this year they closed out, they spent, gosh, 1,642,000. And you can see how in Carroll spent 3.6 million. So you wonder where the money's going, and some of it I don't have any control over. What I do have control over is, Mr. Hatch got my back. We go toe to toe when we think there's something wrong, or we feel like the vendors aren't giving us our money's worth. I reported 2 vendors in the last month to Richmond for fraud, and where I feel like they're not giving us the services we pay for. I try really hard to keep that, and I can't question things like IEP replacements or foster care. I can question how long they're there, when you're going to get them out and back in the community, because kids are so much better served here in the community. So I wanted to give you an opportunity, if there's any questions you have about what I'm doing or what you want me to do. I mean, I'm here for you. I'm here to, that's what I tell CPT, I'm here for you to make things better. It does upset me when I see how much money is spent on services and you wonder what the kids are getting. We had a kid in Richmond at a residential facility, and went to visit that kid. When you take a kid out of Grayson County and put them in Richmond, it breaks my heart. And then you go down there and see what that facility looked like and what they were getting. I reported them to that. And I can do that. I can try to make sure, and we had PAC today, it was a long PAC, and then I'll ask, they've been getting these services. What do you plan to do? I mean, where are the services going? They can't be open-ended. What can we do to get that filed out? So you can't have services in there forever. So that's what we're trying to do. So, and like I said, Mr. Hatch has the back. He helps me in those meetings where it's difficult, if you're on the phone with a vendor, or, you know, we have a bad case come along. Mr. Shepley does too. They've been awesome to work with. But, you know, if y'all have any questions, now's the time. I answer any questions that you have.
Yes, first, I mean, anybody that saves $100,000 in the course of the year deserves our appreciation. I think I speak to the board for thanks for doing that. I'm a little confused on the number though. Is the budget I think we did last year, I think you had to come back for a supplemental. And so is this number 891 or whatever it is that with the supplemental added in?
Yes. What the state does is, when, I don't know how they come up with what they're going to give you every year, but they do that in Richmond. And they won't give you all of it up front. They give you 75% of what they've allocated for the year. And then when you come close to that, you can ask for the rest of it. You know, so that's how it comes to be. I will tell you that Grayson, the match rate is really low, one of the lowest in the state and local match, because they looked, when it began in 1993, they looked at the poverty rate, and Grayson was so below the poverty rate, they gave us the lowest match. And I have fought to keep that here. And I talked to Scott Reiner, he's the director of OCS in Richmond, and, you know, he said, you know, look at y'all's match rate, and I said, I'm going to keep it right there, because we paid one of the lowest in the state. So it's the state and local match. But the supplementals come in, you know, I try not to ask for more than what we'll need, because, you know, I can ask for $500,000. I try to do a projection of a straight line projection of what the expenditures look like and where we are and where we're going. And sometimes you can't tell. I mean, there's times I'll call and say 5 kids. Okay, I mean, I have actually no control over that. But I try to look at what we can save. And if I look like, and I'll fight with the vendor if I feel like they haven't, and I told vendors no. I had a vendor call last week and said we found some expenditures that we didn't bill and get to the time. I said, well, I'm sorry for you, but you're going to get done. And so I said, well, coming out of local money, we're not giving you a dime, and we're not paying you a dime. I don't have any problem doing that. You know, my heart breaks for the kids. I mean, I've been doing this a long time, you know, and it breaks my heart when I see, like, once we got that child in Richmond, we thought we got her out. But, you know, kids need to be home. And that's all she wanted, was to have a home. So that's what, and kids do better in regular foster homes, somewhere where they can see day-to-day life, like and I got them to forget. You know, the kids do better than that, and so we look at that strongly, you know, before we put kids in residential.
So that's my next question is, what, you mentioned that we didn't have a lot, part of the reason why we had to send them away is we didn't have the local capability, right?
Well, in therapeutic hospitals, so these are big agencies that are,
Right, that's where the big money was going, but to save money, you're trying to do that locally, correct?
Yes, currently we only have one child in a residential, a group home residential, and that is located in Woodville.
that's in Presbyterian.
Presbyterian Children's Home, and that is $700 a month for a 17-year-old female child. I don't have a foster home here locally that would take a female that was abusive, okay? As opposed to a residential facility, say Norfolk or Richmond, that is approximately $18,000 a month.
So the question, I guess, is if we want to develop that capability here locally so that we can handle and serve the children in need more effectively, what do you need to do that?
In terms of a residential or
Yeah,
local foster homes?
what do you need? How do we develop that local capability more so that we can continue on this trend? You know, one year doesn't make a trend.
Mhm.
So, but it's a good indicator that we're heading in the right direction. So if the therapeutics is our big cost item, we know the answer is to try to do it more locally. What do we need to do to be able to do it more locally?
Well, that is what Ms. LaShaye Hall has been hired to do, and I can speak to you directly on that. I have numbers for you. Currently, right now, we have 29 local foster homes, and I have 47 openings, okay? That means that they will take, certain families will take certain children, like some are only approved to take birth to 5. Some only want children up to 6th grade. Very few want those teenagers. We do currently have 5 right now who would like to try to take in difficult teenagers. They're willing to give it a shot. So that's more than what we had a year ago. 47 openings right now, okay? That's the most we've ever had, to my understanding. We also, one of the things that our virtual, because we're having to do so much things right now with virtual recruitment. Ms. Hall has done a virtual recruitment with the local school system with both Grayson and Carroll County. She has also just this week sent out things to all the local churches in both communities, a video. We have created a website. It's called Galax Grayson Foster Families. I encourage you all to take a look at that site so that you can see the virtual recruitment, the videos that we are using to recruit families. And then we also will be meeting with the prison. The new assistant warden here at the prison in Grayson was a foster provider locally in Norfolk before moving here. So he wants to open that up to his staff as well. So the word is getting out here within the community. Mrs. Hall also has a lot of connections with the school system. Her husband teaches here in Grayson County, and we've had 2 deputies that were just recently approved out of Galax and Wood County that are stepping up to the plate with their families. So the more we can do that and talk about the positives and having families that would step up to be local, the more we can reduce that therapeutic cost.
We do have a therapeutic foster home in Galax that helps us out.
Yes, we do. Yes,
Sure do. We've been at and Mr. Ash went with me to the schools. We talked to them about the costs there and what was the breakdown and taking kids out of the system and putting them in alternative day placement and options for them. They were open to that, and Mr. Ash had no back on that too. I don't have any problem going to back doing anybody doing Mr. Ash. So I mean, so what I can control, I try to. And I always, I guess where I've done this so long, I always think about the kids first. So, you know, if they come and say, you know, one workers come and say residential, I say community based. What can you do here in your community and you can put something in support to keep this child at home.
Oftentimes we don't, like one child that we were talking about, 12-year-old, she had to have an assessment. She had to go. And the only place that we could send her was to an assessment facility in Richmond. It's short term, 3 months. We knew that. So then we knew we were able to bring her back to a local home as a result of that assessment. Because local foster homes want to make sure that children are not a threat to potential other children in their home, whether it be sexually or physically of that nature. We were able to have an assessment and prove that this child was safe to come back to a local home. And we did that within our 3-month time. I hope that answers your question.
No, it does. I think it's hugely helpful. I applaud y'all for your efforts because you all are, you know, front line heroes in my mind.
We're
You do-
trying very hard for Grayson County, and I can't say enough about the folks in this community, especially during this COVID. Everybody is willing to work together. We pick up the phone and call folks, hey, can we sit down and we talk about how we can address this situation? Everybody's been very cooperative. That is one thing I can say about Grayson County, the resilience of the people and the willingness to come to the table to bring creative situations.
And people here are university kind. I mean, they're kind-hearted, like I say, in this county, the county administrator, they had that for this one. I mean, he would come to blows. I mean, we would come to blows sometimes. And but we would work it out. And here I feel comfortable talking to you guys about what's going on, you know, and what you need. And if you see something that you need me to do or you want me to do, I'm open to it. I'm here for you. And talk
We're not going to do
I
that.
wish the days I look up the VRS and see how many months I got on there. But
I have one other question, but it's not, it's related to DSS, but not this, so I wanna, just wanna ask it when everybody else is done. You have something?
I was just going to say, just a couple of these placements with the school, this is, it's nothing that's ever that you have control over, or the school system has control, but there are 100,000 plus placements for a school year. I mean,
it's
per
125.
individual child.
So you may look at the scriptures and you don't see that, what it is, the breakdown of it, but the expenditures are just so much, and the vendors, I mean, they just had an open season, so when I talked to Richmond, I'm like, what are y'all doing? Make sure people are doing certain things. What are you doing to control expenditures? If we're doing what we can here, you need to help us out in Richmond.
There needs to be some kind of cap on these vendors that provide these services. There needs to be some kind of cap where they don't just have free run,
We do have a webinar on Monday at 10. The JLARC is doing a study of CSA dollars and what that's going to look like. And that's one of the things that they're looking at addressing on some of these private folks is what the cap is going to look like, almost like a Medicaid cap, what they're willing to pay providers. So we'll see what that looks like and how we can address that then.
and you address our match is what, like
21%.
21%. Okay, we're talking about 21% of the cost. This is not the total cost.
Right.
They're getting all this stuff.
It's
It's
not
scary.
the cost. It is, it's like I say, the cost, it makes me sick at heart to think that people's money, because people are struggling so now, what you can do with that money for the people in the community, and you see that it's going out for these services. So, I mean, I'll fight over an hour. I know they've overbilled. I mean, I look at everything that they do. I try my best. And so, I'm hoping to when I leave here, leave it better than when I came. And so, and like I say, if I see you hang out in the community or you see something that I need to be doing, you tell me and
We're available if anybody would like to meet individually at any time with us.
We want to see where the money is.
Mr. Evans, do you have some?
I do. I don't have a question, I have a comment. You're right. I raise concerns about the rate of increase and the impact on the citizens, our budget, our ability to fund things. And I have to tell you, I'm overwhelmed by what y'all accomplished. And it's reassuring to know that hard work and creativity can in fact save money and improve the quality of the experience for those children.
Oh, and
Because
Kristen's
too often we find where you can't cut this, or you can't save money because it's bad for the recipients, but you've shown us this example of good hard work.
And we don't know everything.
Application of things.
Ms. Bishop says 30 years of experience. I have 25 years. We don't know everything, but we are open to ideas. If you come up with anything, we are willing to entertain ideas and thoughts. That's what we're here for.
I'm just glad you're leading our team.
Thank you.
Yes, she's awesome. I worked with Kristen before. I wouldn't have come here if it hadn't been for Kristen. I wouldn't have even considered it. But I knew what she did with me. I saw the long days and nights that she was trying to get basic things for children and families in our community. So when she came here, I knew it was a blessing.
So, other end of the spectrum. A couple years ago, there was an initiative started about guardianship and trying to recruit guardians to help seniors who didn't have anybody.
Right.
It seemed like it was heading in the right direction, then I kind of don't know what happened to it. Can you talk a little bit about that and where we are? And
Are you talking about court ordered or not?
well, the example that I recall was there was an individual in the nursing home who had no legal guardian here, and so they needed volunteers to become guardians to be able to sign the paperwork and do that sort of thing. And there was an effort to try to recruit volunteers to do that sort of thing. And I don't know, that's kind of where it got to, and then I think it.
Well, and I think we were looking at an active role and looking at doing that in terms of our aging council that we had prior to COVID. I can tell you that I now supervise that program, Adult Protective Services, myself. And tomorrow we are in court for our first guardian that we had to actually go to court to obtain tomorrow on an 83-year-old. So we are looking at that. That is something that local DSS directors also can do. We've had experience in the past, both Ms. Bishop and I both. We would have to have a screening process and making sure that people would not take advantage financially of people. But that is something that we are willing to do. And myself now supervising the Adult Protective Services program, I'm open to that.
Is it a need though?
I do. I think oftentimes we hear of needs of people that don't have family members that would need that, but we would really have to keep our eyes on the situation if somebody becomes a guardian. I think that's why the local directors have taken that on as a side as well, to make sure that we have somebody ethically that's not going to take advantage of somebody financially.
Right, absolutely.
It would be very difficult. And we would have to look at each case individually, but I'm willing to do that. So.
I'm not asking you to, it sounds like you're all over it. I was just looking to see where it was because I hadn't heard anything more about it in a couple of years. Okay, thank you.
Absolutely.
On a positive note, I got a dog from Grayson County last week. We went to, I went with her doing APS because Kristen didn't show it to their broken arms because she had a sling. So I drove her out to, where were we at? Baywood. And I went to the pro park and had a bunch of dogs, and one of them got up in the car, and I got it, and Kristen goes, "You can't keep it." I said, "It's coming home." And so the lady come out, and
She did give her the dog, but Miss Bishop took $100 for the dog food to the other 50 that was there. So
yeah, I took them all if I could. But, that's some positive notes. I'm trying to get down the dog population.
Thank you all for
I'm
coming.
sorry we went over the 10 minutes. I apologize.
Well, that's fine, we're glad to have you in Grayson County.
Thank you.
Thank you, Christina.
Okay, next, old business, Rita, contract. You doing?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, it was suggested at our last meeting that we change the date on the VATI contract to December 1st. And we've made that change on the contract and are ready to move ahead if the board is ready for that.
Is there, I think the discussion, Bill, was about trying to time that to when we think we're going to want to spend the money because the signing of the contract initiates the 1-year time, right?
Yeah, you're exactly right.
Right. So rather than be firm on the 1 December, now that we know that APCO is going to start building on the 7th of December, based on when phase 1 will be completed, if we're not under pressure by the body people to sign this thing, I recommend we maybe hold off until we confirm that date up so we don't start the clock necessarily.
I think that's a good idea, and we're not under pressure. They've been very flexible with us on a date of the signed contract, so we could certainly do that.
Okay. So I guess, Mr. Chairman, maybe we table this until a date that the county administrator determines that we need to bring it back up. Is that an appropriate motion?
I think it is.
So you have to go from that date forward.
Right.
So we have a motion, a second to table.
Second.
All in favor, aye. Okay, so Mr. Jeffrey, we'll table that. Okay.
Thank you.
Sir. Now we'll go into public hearing. on proposed ordinance to ensure continuity of Grayson government in response to COVID-19 disaster. With promotion going to public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, aye. We have no one. Anybody, any comments, Mr. Smith or Mr. Shepherd?
This is just, Steve Durbin, our legal counsel, has advised us that we need to, renew this as the first period of time for the, ensuring continuity of government during the COVID-19 disaster is running out, and so we need to renew it. It's the same thing that you approved, several months ago when this whole situation began.
We gotta do it every 6 months, right, until we decide that it's.
That's right.
Right, okay.
Yep.
That's why it's done.
And actually, y'all have already done it. This is just ratifying that public hearing.
Okay. All right, looking for a motion to come out of public hearing. Second. All in favor, aye. So we're out of public hearing. New business.
No. Yeah. Yeah, vote on that.
Oh, sorry. But for the, proposed ordinance, we don't want to do roll call, do we?
Yeah, it's ordinance.
Okay. Mr. Fair.
Aye.
Sutherland.
Aye.
Mr. Rebels. Mr. Hay.
Aye.
And also, aye. Okay. Now, new business, no resolution of small purchase procedures.
Yes, sir. I've been working closely with our legal counsel, Steve Durbin, and with Stephanie Davis from Virginia Tech, Dr. Stephanie Davis from Virginia Tech. What we're doing is we are reviewing all of the policies and procedures that occur within the county government and making sure that all those policies and procedures are up to date and cover all that they need to cover, and to make sure that we have actually manuals available for the future and for the present that enable the present government and the future government here to be able to refer to on-site guidelines in just about everything that the county does. As part of that effort, I asked Steve Durbin to put together a small purchase procedure policy for Grayson County. And with your permission, I'd like to read that policy and see if the board is willing to approve that.
Sir, go ahead.
Okay. Resolution on small purchase procedures. Be it resolved by the Board of Supervisors of the County of Grayson as follows. Number one, the policy is hereby approved by the county and effective on the 12th day of November 2020, pursuant to Section 2.24303G of the Virginia Code, and is adopted to provide for the fair and equitable treatment of all persons involved in small public purchasing by the county, to maximize the purchasing value of public funds in such procurement, and to provide safeguards for maintaining a procurement system of quality and integrity. Number two, the county administrator is hereby designated as the purchasing agent of the county for purposes of procurement made under this policy. Number three, all purchases shall be made upon receipt of a purchase order and confirmation of available funds. Number four, the small purchase procedures in this policy apply only to procurement of A, single or term contracts for the following, provided that the aggregate sum of all phases is not expected to exceed $50,000. Under A, we have one, goods, and number two, services other than professional services, and number three, non-transportation related construction, and B, contracts for professional services if the aggregate or the sum of all phases is not expected to exceed $50,000. Number 5, for any purchase under this policy accepting professional services, price shall be considered, but need not be the sole determining factor in evaluating purchase. Number 6, all quotations and a brief explanation of the reason for the selection of a vendor should be documented to the file. Number 7, small purchase procedures shall be as follows. A, goods or services less than $5,000. Individual county departments have the authority to make direct purchases of items within the department's approved budget from vendors of choice upon informal solicitation of quotes or informal price comparison. Overall value shall be considered. Quotes shall be documented in the contract file. B, goods, services, non-transportation construction, $5,001 to $15,000. Individual county departments will obtain at least 3 price quotations from vendors by telephone or in writing before making purchases. The county administrator must sign off on such purchase orders. C, goods, services, non-transportation construction, $15,001 to $30,000. The purchasing agent, I guess the purchasing, missing a word there, it should be agent, or his or her designee will obtain 3 written price quotations before making purchase. For transportation-related construction, this provision applies only to single or term contracts where the aggregate sum of all phases is not expected to exceed $25,000. D, goods, services, non-transportation construction, $30,001 to $50,000. The purchasing agent or his or her designee will obtain written price quotations from 4 or more vendors. Number 8, for all goods or services, non-transportation construction, or professional services over $50,000, or for transportation-related construction where the aggregate sum of all phases is expected to exceed $25,000, the purchasing office will engage in formal procurement in compliance with the provisions of the Virginia Public Procurement Act as amended. All purchases, contracts in excess of the purchasing levels described herein shall be placed on the agenda of the Board of Supervisors for approval. That's it.
Okay, any questions?
But I got suggestions.
Okay.
Hey, Bill, the only thought I had was, as I read it, you are being designated the purchasing agent. My concern is your authority to delegate that authority. And so it's kind of my thought is that maybe we ought to add a paragraph that says the responsibilities of the purchasing agent cannot be delegated without prior approval of the board.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea.
Because, I mean, you got to own it, not that you won't, but I think for the purpose of the policy, I think we need to be clear that in this case, when we're talking about contracts, the county administrator needs to be the person that signs it every time.
We'll be glad to add that.
Okay, run it by Steve, but it's my recommendation, Mr. Chairman, if the board, unless there's other changes, that we could pass it with that change, assuming it's.
You're saying to add that it would be the board's decision to make another designee?
If for some reason the county administrator feels like the deputy needs to be able to sign something, he's going to be on extended leave or something like that, then he would just ask us to approve that delegation authority. So in other words, we're withholding the authority for the administrator to delegate this to somebody else. Does that make sense?
Yeah, but couldn't the county administrator have that authority to delegate?
What I'm saying is we're not, my recommendation is that we do not allow him to have that authority to delegate in this case as it relates to contracts. That's the idea.
If we waited another month or meeting, something needs to be paid. we can,
This is contracts. I mean, this is small purchase stuff and contracts,
Because
so.
I do take care of, in Bill's absence, I'm his designee. So I do that.
Or is designated.
What I hear you saying is on contracts.
Well, that's kind of my take on a lot of this, because ultimately it is a contract that you're doing regardless of the amount. And so it's the idea, I'm just throwing it out there, is this restriction that I'm suggesting useful or helpful? In my mind, it is, because I personally want the administrator to own it. That's the purpose behind it.
Wouldn't it be on the language that county administrator and get on it, or his designee? Through us each time.
Mike, I feel better instead of just leaving it open-ended. If you want to have more than one, I'd designate Mitch and county administrator. I'd designate that position and administrator.
Well, yeah,
I mean,
he's gonna know who you designated it to.
well, I agree, but part of, I guess.
I can't hear you guys now.
For Lisa and Mitch and Bill is, we talked about putting all these new policies in place. We have the horsepower staff keep up with it. One thing to have policies and check all these different things and ensure you got all these files and you've done all of this. Do we have the people, the manpower to do that? And you may say, absolutely, and that's great, but I've seen this happen before in organizations where you put all this stuff in place. And then you realize that there's not enough hours in the day for people to keep it up. And then you violate your own policies by default. So that carries it further in the project.
Well, I think this is addressing, though, as we talked last month, that we don't have a policy as a
Right. Well, I think I would, I hear what you're saying, I hear what John's saying. I'd almost just designate Mitch and Bill and put in there and make that a formal process. And that way you got it covered if one's out, like they do now, one's covered.
Without having to come back to us to.
This is small.
motion.
So maybe, what about this? I couldn't clearly hear everybody, but I think I got the gist of what you're saying. And I'm not thinking about necessarily so much Mitch, and I'm just thinking about the position, the two positions. What if you had something like that the deputy county administrator could sign with the written permission of the county administrator, like, in email form or whatever, because the likelihood of this happening would be something that needed to be signed, let's say while I was on vacation or I was sick or something, and it needed to be signed and it needed to be signed that day. If it was just simply, if he just said, if he emailed me and said, I need to sign this, or called me and said, I need to sign that, and I wrote back to him and gave him permission, maybe that would help us to be able to do that.
Just need position. I'd be comfortable.
I can't hear the person that's talking right now.
Bill, this is Tom, I'd be comfortable just putting the names of positions, your position and Mitch's position in as people who could sign on contracts.
And we'll make it whatever the board feels most comfortable with is fine with me. We'll make it work.
I guess all I'm trying to get at is that we don't, this doesn't get delegated. It sounds like we've come to a consensus of beyond the deputy county administrator. There's only two people in this building that can sign contracts for the county with no exceptions.
Yeah, sounds good.
That's what I think we need to make sure that it's clear, so that we don't have somebody out going down, another department going to sign contracts. That's what we're trying to prevent.
I got you.
I'd make a motion that we approve it with that alteration in the authorization for signature.
And add the word that's missing.
Yes, and add the word that Bill found is missing.
Okay.
I'll second that.
And the two positions of the county administrator and deputy county administrator.
Okay. A motion and a second. Resolution, let's do a roll call. Lynn?
Aye.
Sullivan?
Aye.
Mr. Rebels?
Aye.
Aye. Aye. And also aye. So resolution's passed, Mr. Shepherd. And you got those changes, correct? Then, okay. All right, next in new business is surplus sheriff's department.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, the sheriff's office would like to surplus a 2011 Dodge Charger with approximately 161,000 miles. It burns oil and smokes. Numerous miscellaneous items. Numerous miscellaneous items such as old light bars, old vehicle parts, old radio parts, etc. The VIN number is 583722.
For a motion to surplus,
So moved.
Second.
all in favor, aye.
Aye.
Okay, yeah, that's smoking. Next, web GIS.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. I asked several departments within the county government to give me a summary of what they would do if we had additional GIS support. And there's a lot that could be done if we had extra GIS support. We're outdated in the GIS arena, and we do need to update. And what I would like to do is I've given you the recommendations of the different departments for your review. But my plan is to go have at our next meeting, we'll be meeting with Dr. Stephanie Davis to talk about organizational structure and making sure that we have the resources that are needed in order to provide the very best governance that we can for the people of Grayson County. And I'd like to include the next step of this in that overall discussion with her in December.
Questions?
Badly needed.
Yes. So consensus,
I'd like to add, Mr. Chairman, that today I was at the Virginia Carolina Water Authority meeting, and after that meeting, Chris Morton, who owns Morton Realty, stopped me to talk about this subject and wanted me to know how important he thought this was for the county and how badly needed it was.
But I want to make sure we're clear though, that they're looking for a capability, which is a technological system that currently needs a lot of upgrading. There's a lot of reference though to an individual full-time person doing that. And really, I think as Bill, you look at this, it's my view that we need to talk about what is it that we need to do to deliver the capability that our customers want, meaning a fully functional GIS system. That doesn't necessarily mean equal hiring another person. It doesn't equal a county employees. It could be done contracting, it could be done other ways. So as we go into the discussion about how do we enhance, improve, fix the GIS capability, let's look at all the options associated, what it would cost to fix it and then sustain it. Because it will take a concentrated effort at the beginning to fix it because it has a lot of problems.
Yeah.
But the sustainment piece may not necessarily require that. So that needs to be figured into the discussion.
Had concerns on both ends of getting it where it needs to be, but then sustaining it also. His thoughts were, and along with others that he had talked to, that if you don't stay on top of it and keep it updated and have somebody on it, then it would get right back where it was.
No, don't disagree. It's just when it comes to budget, that doesn't necessarily equal, gotta have somebody on the Grayson County full-time payroll.
You can do it through contract services. We've got hurt and profit in that through the years, and, I don't know if Carl.
I'm not trying to solve it, I'm just saying, let's not make sure we go, because a lot of folks say we need, in these letters said, we need a full-time person. I'm not necessarily in agreement with that, but I also don't have all the facts.
Yeah, and I think that one of the ways that small county governments like ours can be most effective is through the hiring of people, part-time people for contract purposes. So I think we need to look at all the opportunities and all the possibilities. That's my plan.
Right.
Again, into motion. David. Okay. So we motion to table web GIS till Mr. Shepley does some checking. The motion. Second.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, Mr. Shepley. All right, next, request of Grayson County Superintendent regarding CARES Act money.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I received myself and the board received an email from our superintendent, Kelly Wilmore, on October 29th, and making a request regarding CARES Act money. And this is what the email said. Mr. Shepley, after speaking to our auditor, Scott Wickham, I am kindly requesting the following funding of $281,739.70 to cover our nurses' salaries from March to December, which is attached in the spreadsheet. We will then substitute this money to cover hazard pay for school employees. Because of their dedication and commitment to service, I feel they are very deserving. A large percentage of state school divisions are still all virtual. I do not see any way we can obtain computers on time. One school division in Northern Virginia is waiting for 4,000 computers and have a wait time of March to May. I will send you a written request for your consideration today. We greatly appreciate the support of you and the supervisors. Bass Kelly. So I am providing that to you for your thoughts, suggestions.
Ms. Rebels.
Mr. Chairman, I feel like before I could say anything regarding this request, I need to look at what are all the things we believe CARES Act money could be spent for, and where does it all add up? I mean, just because he asked doesn't mean we ought to just go ahead and approve his, and then by doing that, we may eliminate 3 or 4 other very worthy groups who should be getting money. Do we have a complete list of everybody that qualifies and has requested money? And I mean, like we've talked about, I think, didn't we talk about the CARES money for the EMS folks as a source for some of that?
Those applications have gone out.
Yeah, I know. Lisa's been working hard on that. But I mean, I don't see how we can act on this and do we see the comprehensive list?
I don't know that police has made a submission yet, but they have. Okay.
What I don't, I'm sorry, Mike, I'm not comfortable, I know Mr. Wilmore, Mr. Shepley talked quite a bit, but I'm not sure I know what the school board's priorities are. You know, there's a chunk of change, just like Mr. Reynolds said, for CARES Act money. We got to rack and stack those requests. You know, we at the county, correct me if I'm wrong, haven't done this, but we did some hazardous duty pay for first line folks. And so I kind of think that's what he's after. But I want to know what the school board is thinking because, you know, for a while we were talking about computers. He referenced them here. I know there's a lag time, but there may be other things out there. But if we're going to do it, I want to know what the school board's priorities are for the youth, for what they need. There may be other things on their list in addition to this, what I'm gonna call hazardous duty pay. This looks like more like kind of a bonus for everybody, but I'm more focused on the hazardous duty, that kind of what we did at the county level. But my thought is that we need the school board's request on what they think they could use for CARES Act spending, and then that would help us in the prioritization of the money. Does that make sense? What I'm saying?
Yeah.
You may have come out full garbled with my school mask.
What's the deadline on this? Deadline for the CARES Act money? It wasn't, I thought it was last November. It's December.
Yeah.
Okay.
Or
Are you there, Lisa?
I am, sir.
Okay, great.
I heard a lot of questions I can answer. So, and I think to put you at ease, yes, every penny that we have allocated is accounted for. Everything that's set aside for nonprofits, everything that's set aside for fire and rescue, that is all accounted for in our total budget. So I have an ongoing list of what's approved, what's been asked for. Right now I have very little wiggle room of about $40,000. But to cover this particular request, this request of the 281, we'll say 282,000 would take the place of the computer request, which was 368 plus. So this would substitute for that. So that 368 would come back, bringing up a little bit more money for us. This is allowed to ask, someone asked the question, is this, how does this work? Really, we need to just forget about the last part of this request.
What's the last part? Are you talking about computers?
No, let's just focus on the very first sentence. I'm kindly, or the second sentence, I'm kindly requesting the following funding of the 282,000 to cover our nurses' salaries from March to December, which is in the attached spreadsheet. That is an absolutely 100% allowable expense under the CARES money. That's really all we need to worry about. That request is allowable under the federal guidelines. And what that does is that would pay for his nurses, freeing up his own budget money to do whatever he sees fit with. So basically we're saying, okay, CARES money is going to be covering the nurses. That frees up X amount within your budget that you can do with what you need to do.
And the students will still get their computers.
No, the students would not get their computers because we can't get them before.
If we free up this money, that's what he said, right?
No, that he's talking about the lag time.
I know.
To use the CARES money to get computers. Those computers would have to be in hand by December 30, and that's not going to happen.
so Lisa, the onus would be, to John's point, the onus would be on the school board then if they took that money and how they spent it, that was freed up, they'd have to prioritize
Correct.
and spend it
Correct.
to what their priorities were.
Go ahead.
Listen, again, though, I would feel more comfortable if you handed me one page that had everything listed out so that we can approve it all, not one at a time. Because I just want to see it all summarized so we know where we're allocating that money. And frankly, maybe we might find there's somebody else we think deserves more money that would prevent us from giving 281,000. Maybe we give them 250,000. I don't know. But I'd like to see it all on the page where I can basically approve all our allocation for CARES Act. Is that a problem?
Are none of these state paid positions?
I can't answer to their who funds their
I think
positions.
there are.
Here's my problem. It's not the amount. It's the third sentence. We're going to substitute this money to cover hazardous pay for all school employees. Okay, this is a shell game. we're gonna move this money to do this in order to do something that we really wanna do, and we couldn't figure out how else to do it. Okay? That's wrong.
We've, Mr. Shepley and I and Deb Jones had this exact same conversation on Monday.
So,
Yeah.
in my opinion, I don't think we need to entertain it because it's wrong. It may be legal, it's not ethical,
I understand what you're saying.
okay? And so
And I agree with you, John.
that's a problem. We haven't done that for the county. Why should we allow that to happen at the school system?
I agree.
There's no question that the cafeteria workers, the teachers' aides, the bus drivers, the janitors, there's no question they need same treatment than our sheriff's department deputies, our DSS employees, our public works folks. They need the same treatment. To send a request without school board approval, asking us to do one thing in order for he can do something else, is flat ass wrong. That's how I feel.
I just got a text that says this is the school board's request, and we can be up here in 10 minutes if it is.
Interesting but irrelevant. And I can speak up louder for you, Kelly, if that helps.
Okay.
I'm just one voice.
I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
I just want to make sure that I covered everyone's questions.
Can we get that list, though? Could you send that out so we can see all the CARES Act allocations?
Absolutely,
Yeah,
sure. I keep a running, it's on my
Good.
desktop.
okay.
Do you want it before you leave today?
No.
Okay.
I think we can get it over the next day or two.
Yeah, because Lisa, if we make a decision on what to do with the remaining CARES Act money in the next board meeting, which I think is December 10th or something like that, then
Yeah.
we'd still be well within the deadline, right?
Yes, sir, that would. And really the next board meeting, I would really like to have everything finalized with all expenditures made before the 15th, if at all possible, so that I can enjoy Christmas.
Just so I'm clear, I'm good with a proposal from the school system for hazardous duty pay for those folks similar to what we did in the county. I'm okay with that. That makes sense. That does not make sense.
Why could we not do it?
Because the way the guidelines are written, hazardous duty pay is only allowed per the definition of, through the U.S. Treasury guidelines, and that is not, teachers are not allowed.
We have got social workers.
Yes. Human services.
That's the way I took it. If we give this money to the nurses,
Yes.
that frees up the $281,000 that Mr. Wilmore says he was going to give bonuses for the teachers.
Yes, within his own budget.
Right, out of his own budget.
Yes.
The only thing I want you to think about is there are several counties that did this. And what do we tell our teachers if we don't do this? So, I mean, they're all asking, Carroll County is give, I don't know what it was, said $50,000 a teacher. Why is not Grayson doing something?
I don't have if Wilmore wants to, or the school board wants to give bonuses to their employees, they have every right to do that within their budget. What I cannot see supporting is a shell game where we're going to move money from one place to another place in order for them to do something that they've admitted they're not allowed to do through the normal procedures. That's just flat wrong.
The county would not be able to give bonuses if the county were able to reimburse themselves. This was the same procedure that I would have used to have freed up money within our operating budget to do the same thing.
interesting, but not compelling to me because it still doesn't meet the ethical. We're not doing it. We're not following the intent behind the funding. We're looking for ways to get around the intent. And that's where
Yeah. I agree.
Okay, so motion to table till next meeting.
Next meeting.
Have a motion.
Yes. Second.
Second, all in favor, aye.
Uh,
Okay, we'll table it. Thank you, Lisa. Okay, county administrator's report, we need to get in the closed session. Is anything in the report? We need to.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. We have been making some very good progress at the old Mount Rogers School, and we had a great meeting out there with Israel O'Quinn and Todd Pillion's assistant. Supervisor Rebels and Supervisor Fant were there. Supervisor Rebels, would you like to give an overview of where we are on the Mount Rogers project?
Well, thank you, Bill. First of all, let me clarify something. I hear on Facebook that there's this thing going around about why in the world we're spending so much money on the old Mount Rogers School. Well, I'm really proud to say, and would challenge anybody to beat this, every dime being spent up to this point is grant money we've gotten from the hard work of our staff, our administrative staff, Tracy Cornett, Bill, Mitch, Lisa. We're in the process now of Virginia Tech is leading a redevelopment project where they'll be coming back to us with schematics. They're talking to people in the community to get stakeholder input. We have a meeting actually on the 19th, which will be a Zoom conference where they're going to show some of their preliminary drawings and things, concepts that they've come up with. They'll also have estimates before the end of the year about what would be required for demolition, because the studies also show that the old school, the rock school is great. The old red brick is a typical 50s and 60s school building that has lead tile, lead paint, asbestos, black mold, any and everything that creates environmental hazards. And so they're going to bring information in about what it would take to take that part of the building down and then rehab the site. And we've had great support from the state, from the Brownfield Group, which is a state and federally funded organization that works with city and county governments to repurpose buildings. And as Bill said, we even had Delegate Quinn and Senator Dillon's administrative assistant, if you will, to come and be a part of the last meeting. So it's moving along well.
Okay. Anything else, Mr.
Thank you.
Shepherd?
It's really exciting day. Virginia Tech has got behind us and is working closely with us. This project has been something that we've wanted to do for the last few years, and it's finally taken off. And a large part of that is due to Supervisor Rebels' support and his belief in his community and pulling the key stakeholders together to make that happen. And we appreciate all that you're doing out there, Supervisor Rebels.
Okay.
The other thing I wanted to tell you about is that we have a great tourism director, Tracy Cornett, who is actually working on that Mount Rogers project, and that's the main thing she's focused on right now. But she is just doing an outstanding job for us. And just recently, we received a grant that she wrote for $20,000 from the Virginia Tourism Commission to use on our tourism website, visitor guide, and any advertising trying to draw tourists into Grayson County. So I'm real pleased with the work that she did to get that done, and just thought I would like to let the board know about that. That's all I have today.
All right, thank you. Do we have any registered speakers? And I have heard of no board supervisors time. None, okay. We need to make a motion, need a motion to go into closed session, discussion relating 2.23711 of A1. Prospective business, A5, consultation briefing of legal counsel, A7, of public litigation. All in favor, aye. That's been all last week, I'm saying for first. Yeah, probably.
I know where there's some holes we can get.
We're gonna start on the 7th.
That was the place, like, some of your guys, literally, they delivered holes that have to lay on the side of one road in the pasture. And I was riding by there, and I said, hey, you think that'd be good for a pole barn? And the guy said, yeah, it'd be a little heavy for you to pick up.
They went off them, then we're Holy Hampton. They went off his pasture, gonna change the pole out the next day. Went back, there was about 7 saw marks. Could have been set fence post.
Oh, my goodness. Oh.
No, good, good. It's a henna tree, what they call it. It's not, they used to go to a salt treatment, and they got some, it's brittle, they call it a henna tree. It's looked like oil. That makes them bronze and green.
For the green, you think because they were salt, that they conduct electricity?
Yeah, but the green pole is something shouldered out, and it's a little spark, so that pole burn and burn like, and I'm saying,
Yeah, we got.
Yes.
I'd, look for motion to go out of closed session.
Second.
The only thing that we discussed was section 2.23711 A1, A5, and A7. That's fine.
I so certified.
7.
Also certified.
I so certified.
Mr. Hatch.
I so certified.
And I so certify. So we are out of closed session. Look for a motion to adjourn. All in favor, aye. We are adjourned.
Thank you, Carl.
You're all.